Okay, folks, so now that we've gone through some of the defense evidence that was left out of the final cut of Making a Murderer, I'm sorry, I just finished dinner. My son made some amazing steaks. It is so cool. Now that my kids are teenagers, they love to cook, so I'm actually not cooking very much anymore, and I'm sitting here like, oh, gee, this must be one of those parental perks I've heard so much about. Who knew it could get so cool? So I would like to discuss this ballistics stuff a little bit more. Now, I am not a ballistics expert. I've said this before. I'll say it a billion other times. I'm not a ballistics expert, but I do know how blood behaves. And I know how blood behaves because it was part of the training that I received for my degree in criminal justice with a focus on forensic analysis. Don't mind the little tiny fire engine that could in the background. That's my 2-year-old. And he doesn't like sharing with his sisters. He went from 0 to terrible 2 in like 4 seconds flat. It was strange. So we've discussed how the ballistics expert said that he could not definitively match the bullet found in the garage to Stephen Avery's rifle. And we also discussed how he said that there was no blood blowback on the gun and there was no DNA on the gun at all, which is really weird. And there was no high velocity spray or spatter anywhere in the garage at all. Now, here's the thing that you got to understand, folks. And yes, we're going to use another prop tonight, but it's not nearly as exciting as last night. I apologize. I don't believe in guns. We don't carry guns in the house because I don't like projectile weapons. It takes all the fun out of it. Now, as I've said, I'm not a ballistics expert. The whole mechanisms and whatnot that go into the workings of a gun just go right through me. Such a bad joke. I apologize. But we're going to use my pen as a scale model, or not to scale model, I should say, a ridiculously not to scale model of a gun barrel. Now, as you can see, there's a hole on the tip of my pen. We're going to go ahead and, call this the chamber. When you shoot a person, depending on how far back you are, the spray will behave differently. Not to mention gunpowder stippling. We've covered this before. So when the bullet exits the chamber, and, the way that Brendan Dassey stated it in his statement to police, they were pretty close up with a hunting rifle, with a .22 rifle, long-range rifle, right up on her. Long-range rifles are incredibly powerful. If she was shot upwards of 10 times in that garage, in that small ass space with a high-powered long-range rifle, I don't give a fuck if it's a .22 or not. It will do some damage, and it will have blood spatter everywhere. Everywhere. Wherever the body was at the time of death would have resulted, it would have just been bathed in blood. It would look like a scene from Dexter. So when the bullet exits the chamber and goes into the human body, around the wound, there will be a flowering of the blood. Not just solid streams of blood. There will be something called high velocity spray. Now, high velocity spray comes anytime that there is a bullet involved, usually up close. High velocity spray will turn this blood into micro droplets, and it turns into a very fine mist, and it will surround the air, and it will basically hit anything. It will coat anything in this very thin mist of blood that is invisible to the human eye. What it will also do is it will get inside your nose, because when you're breathing, it'll get inside whatever orifice you're breathing through, whether it be the mouth or the nose, and it will coat the inside of the nostrils, and you will smell that for a long time. Long time. A lot of people have reported headaches from that smell of blood. I don't know how many of you sick puppies have smelled human blood, especially in a forensic situation, but human blood has a very sickly, sweet smell. It smells very, very, very sweet. It's difficult to compare it to anything, but it smells very, very sweet. And to have that very sweet smell on the inside of the nostril, and it won't just get on the inside of the nostril, it'll coat the entire nasal passage. That can cause headaches. I mean, think about it. Have you been in a room with wood smoke? Same basic principle. So here's the incongruency to me, folks. The sheriff's department did spray down that entire garage with luminol. Luminol is a chemical compound by which you spray it somewhere and then you shine a light over it, a black light. The hippies were onto something. You shine a black light on it and it'll glow bright blue wherever the hell blood is. It reacts to the iron in the blood. That entire garage was hosed down with luminol. Not a single drop was found anywhere. And same thing with high velocity spray. You'll see it. However, bleach, for whatever reason, bleach reacts with luminol in much the same way that blood does. It'll glow, but you'll see the smearing of the bleach. Now, Brendan Dassey said in one of his statements that they had cleaned up the blood in the garage using a combination of gasoline, paint thinner, and bleach. I don't give a fuck what you mix bleach with. It will show up if it's sprayed with luminol. Nothing showed up in the luminol. If nothing showed up in the luminol, there was no death in the fucking garage. That simple. Jesus, crotch on fire. So now we're going to talk about the DNA on the gun. Now, typically when you clean a gun, some DNA will be left on it, depending on how you clean it. For there to be no DNA on the gun is interesting, but there was no blowback spray on the barrel either. Again, hosing it down luminol, I don't give a fuck what you clean it with, you're still going to find it. You're still going to find that blood. I don't care what you've cleaned it with, except for bleach, for whatever reason. Now, that's just an interesting point. What I find really interesting, though, is the way that Brendan Dassey explains how they put Teresa Halbach in the back of her car. First of all, why put her in the back of the fucking car in the first place? If she was stabbed in the house, why would you put her into the back of the car to take her to the garage? The garage was not that far away. And if this was at night, they could have very quickly, I mean, Teresa Halbach was a bitty thing. Stephen Avery is a big guy. He could have carried her very easily from the house to the garage. Plus, why put her in the garage if you've already started stabbing her in your bedroom only to shoot her in the garage? There's a lot of inconsistencies here. The bedroom was already hosed down with her blood, according to Brendan Dassey. Why move her and get a secondary crime scene out of the deal? Doesn't make sense. But the way that he describes them taking her out of the trunk, laying her on the garage floor, and then pumping bullets into her, it sounds very much like handling a deer when you bring it home from the hunt. Doesn't it? I mean, I'm no hunter, primarily because I'm pretty sure that I'd shoot myself on accident. But from what I've gleaned from, my hunting buddies and, being at family's house when they would bring home a deer or an elk, it's pretty much the same way if the deer isn't, there's those few times that you'll pick up a deer that's kind of sort of paralyzed, but it's not really dead. You kind of have to put it out of its misery. Hauling it out of the back of the truck and then pumping a few bullets into it. And if there's deer blood in the garage, is it possible that Brendan Dassey was merely describing a scene of a deer as opposed to Teresa Halbach, but he was just telling them what they wanted to hear, and that was the narrative that came the closest to his mind? That's a possibility. Now that we've covered how the ballistics has worked, I will see you next video. Thank you for watching. And if you have any questions or you have any comments, feel free to comment below. I love new information. So we'll see you next video. Thank you.